Good afternoon, Ms. Jones.
Good afternoon.
You were assigned to investigate the recent case of arson at Phillips High School, correct?
Correct.
And your partner on this case was Detective Sam O'Leary, correct?
Correct.
And before starting the investigation, you were aware that this case dealt with Dakota Allen, weren't you?
No. We had gotten 2 anonymous tips, but there was no concrete evidence that he was involved.
I'm sorry, my question was, you were aware before starting the investigation that this case dealt with Dakota Allen.
Picking him up, yes.
So that is a yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Allen's father is your close acquaintance, isn't he?
I wouldn't say close. We're friends, but not close friends.
So you don't see him outside of work, do you?
Once in a while.
Once in a while?
We're not best friends or anything, but I do see him from time to time.
Would you say, though, that you knew the defendant's father fairly well,
Yes.
but he's not your close acquaintance?
Objection, asked and answered.
I agree. The objection is sustained.
I'll
I'll
answer
answer
any
any question.
Great, thank you. Now, you and Sam O'Leary picked up Quinn Patel and Dakota Allen at each of their homes, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And you discussed with Quinn's parents why you were there and what you wanted to do with their child, correct?
Yes, we said that we were going to take their children to different places that had to do with the fire.
So you also told them that their child was going to be taken to several sites related to the crime, right?
We said that, yes.
And to your understanding, Dakota Allen's father was informed of all the same information, right?
As far as I know, he was, yes.
Therefore, you are aware that Mr. Allen was informed that his son was going to be interviewed, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Allen did consent to this interview, did he not?
He did.
To the best of your knowledge, when the defendant was being picked up, his father never once mentioned the defendant needed medication, did he?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So at this time, neither you nor Detective O'Leary had any sure way of knowing whether or not medication was needed, did you?
Well, I had known, I had been involved, in a case before where I had met Dakota, and I had known that he had to take Adolin as his medication.
I'm sorry, but at this point in time, when you were picking up the defendant, when Detective O'Leary was picking up the defendant, there was no possible way that he or you could be sure that the defendant was taking medication.
No, we couldn't be 100% sure.
Now let's talk about the actual interview. You were driving an unmarked car, right?
Yes, unmarked.
And you were not wearing a full police uniform, were you?
Just our department jackets.
Now you would say that Detective O'Leary was in the suspect's faces, wouldn't you?
Yes, he was in the suspect's faces a lot.
And you do not prefer this technique.
No, I don't agree with it.
But you would not consider it to violate any rules or laws regarding police questioning, would you?
It depends on which lines they cross. If it becomes physical, then yes, it does.
However, this technique, in general, does not violate any rules or laws regarding police questioning.
No.
Now you also know that it is a standard police technique to make statements to suspects that may not be true in order to obtain information from them, correct?
Yes.
For example, it is common for a police officer to tell one of several suspects, your partner is in the other room confessing right now, when that statement may not be true. Is this common?
Yes, they try to use the other person to get more information.
And that is a legal police technique, isn't it?
It is.
In fact, you yourself sometimes make statements to suspects that may not be true in order to obtain information from them, don't you?
I believe all policemen do.
For example, you told Quinn Patel that any useful information she provided you with could restore Quinn's reputation in the high school. Did you say this?
Yes.
And you also said that admitting such information could make her a hero, right?
I said that, yes.
And that it could set things right with Quinn's parents, didn't you?
Yes.
However, you had no way of guaranteeing that these statements were true, did you?
I couldn't guarantee it, but it might help.
Now going back to the interview process, you agreed to Detective O'Leary's idea to divide the suspects to question them individually, correct?
I thought it had been a long day of interviewing, but, I mean, I had to do what Sam said because he is superior to me.
Objection, Your Honor. I move to strike this answer from the record as it is non-responsive. I simply asked whether or not the witness agreed to splitting the suspects up.
I think it continues the answer, so overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. However, you've been working with Sam O'Leary for 5 years, right?
Yes, for 5 years.
And he has no official ranking over you, does he?
I was just simply saying that he has more years of experience than I do.
But he has no official ranking over you, does
No.
he? Now, you would say, I'm sorry, moving on, when you returned to the crime scene and Detective O'Leary was questioning the defendant, you were about 30 to 40 feet apart from them, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And because of this distance, you could not see exactly what was going on, could you?
Not exactly, no.
And before you saw this altercation between, actually, I'm sorry. At any point during the day, did you take away the defendant's cell phone?
No, we did not.
And moving on, you would consider searching, photographing, and placing someone in a holding cell an example of taking someone into police custody, right?
Yes, I would say that.
And you would say that the defendant underwent a similar process, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yet before this happened to him, he was read his Miranda rights by Detective O'Leary, wasn't he?
But that was not directly after the confession. They waited till they got to the police station to read the Miranda rights.
I'm sorry, my question was, before being searched, photographed, and placed in a holding cell, Dakota Allen was read her Miranda rights, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Jones, you did not do anything improper during the interview, did you?
No, not me.
Now, you've stated Miranda rights many times before, haven't you?
Yes,
So you know them pretty well, right?
pretty well, yes.
And you always give them when they're necessary, don't you?
Yes,
But you never once gave them during the interview, correct?
correct.
And you resigned from the Phillips Police Department just prior to a hearing that could have resulted in your being kicked out of the force, right?
Right, I took an early retirement.
So you're no longer a police officer, are you?
No, I'm a fraud investigator at a local insurance company now.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Then the presentation of the witnesses is concluded. At this point, you folks have 2 minutes. You need to collect your thoughts, starting